YouTube, what is good? This week I'll be retouching one of the images shot with Leah outside near the studio. So it's not really on, it is on location, but it's not next to the studio, so we had to drive for about 5 minutes. So let's roll that intro and let's just dive straight into Capture One and Photoshop. When we open up this image in Capture One, which is the raw converter, you can see that these are 4 images we've selected. And in the end, I'm gonna retouch this one and this one. So for the tutorial now, I'm gonna be retouching this one. As you can see, it's shot at f2 with a shutter speed of 1/800 of a second, ISO 64, and it was shot with my 85mm from Nikon on a Nikon D850. So when we go to all the settings on the left side, we've got some tabs which we can use. So for instance, we have exposure, and as you can see, the light modifier is still on there, which was the Elinchrom snap locks, the small one. So let's reset these exposures. So let's pop up some shadows. Let's reduce some highlights a little bit, and then I'm not sure if it's straight. Let's see if we crop it in a bit and turn it around. This will be slightly better. And then I'm gonna lift a little bit of the blacks, give it a little bit of clarity like tree and structure tree. Let's zoom in a bit. There we go. So it has some nice bokeh to it because it was shot at f2. So let's export this now into Photoshop. So I'm gonna export this into Photoshop, 300 dpi with color space Adobe RGB, 16-bit, and then it will open it up straight into Photoshop. So if we wait a sec, it should pop up in Photoshop. And as mentioned in previous tutorials, my layout in Photoshop looks different than yours. It's because I've created my own custom workspace so that I move quicker in and around Photoshop. So first things first, what do we want to remove? So I'm gonna take like a roadmap and I'm gonna tag all the things I want to see adjusted. Let's go with bright green. Like for instance, the wires here, these have to go, this has to go, this little area, this area has to go. Then perhaps we're gonna make this part, push it in a little bit so that because the dress is a little bit bombastic, we want to like perhaps even out the dress like that. And then we change some colors. We're perhaps gonna change the sky replacement with Photoshop, and then that should be it. And some color work. For the skin, there's not a lot we can do. Like for instance, we want to even out this transition, remove these perhaps, and that's about it. So let's disable this help layer, and let's first start by duplicating this layer. So I'm gonna hit Ctrl-Command-J, which makes a duplicate of the layer that's beneath it. And when we take the quick healing brush, I'm just gonna paint over the thing that I've marked before. So I want to remove that one, want to remove this one, this one as well, the power cord. There we go. And now for this one, what you can do is just paint over it like that. It might be that it does a good job. Yeah, it does. Now another way to do this is to just use your lasso tool by hitting the L. Make a selection around it, go to edit, go into fill, and just fill it up with content aware and hit OK. Normally it should do the trick. It didn't do it now, so let's see what's going on. So Shift F5, hit it with content aware. Let's disable color adaptation. Let's change the blend mode to normal, that's why it was so dark. Color adaptation can be checked. Let's hit OK, and now it should do the trick. There we go. Now I liked the one I had with just the healing brush, so it's a matter of personal preference. Let's go a little bit further again. So let's take that one. Let's just paint over it. There we go. Let's remove the power cord again. Let's zoom in a bit on the awesome Leah. So I'm gonna remove all distractions that bug me. I'm just gonna slightly just paint over them. Because some of the flyaway hairs, they catch some light, that's why they are distracting our eyes. So let's see what we can do with this one. Does a pretty decent job. Yeah, and that's it, because the rest's all dress. So when this step is done, what I'm gonna be doing is first doing my Liquify step, which adjusts the proportions in an image. That way, when I'm editing, I know that my adjustments will be final. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do Liquify, the adjustments are final. So let's go to Find Filter, Liquify. Let's open up the forward warp. There we go, that's already a lot better. Now remember, I said we were gonna try to get the dress a little bit more in a triangle. So let's try this. So the dress is from Fantasy Design, a company in the Netherlands. You can just rent out these dresses, they send them up by mail, you just send them back, which is a win-win. Now, what I want for this one is I want to freeze the arm, because I don't want to push in the arm. So I'm gonna freeze this part, then I'm gonna go back to the forward warp and just ever so slightly give it a push. Let's freeze this one as well. And the bigger the brush, the bigger the adjustments will be, so the lesser you will see it. Now if I remove all the freezing, you can still see that there's something funky going on with the... So the arm on the right, image right, is totally fine. This part is weird, so we can reconstruct this by just going over it. There we go. So that's something to keep in mind when you are doing these kind of things. Make sure that everything stays the way they should be. There we go. Now let's see before and after. Before, after. Cool. Let's confirm these adjustments. So that's one of the first things. Now there is a new adjustment installed into Photoshop, which is called Sky Replacement. It lets you replace the sky without even actually doing too much. So when we go to Edit, Sky Replacement, it calculates what the sky would be and it adjusts it the way you want it. So for instance, if you want these clouds, you just click here and then you get different kind of clouds you can choose from. For instance, this one, this one. So you have possibilities, even sunsets are there. Like even this one would work, I think, but because there is some harsher light from the sun hitting her, I'm not sure if the sunset look will be right. Let it go for the crazy rainbow. No, that's not gonna happen. But as you can see, there are some possibilities. Like this one, this one might work, but I'm just gonna go with normal regular clouds, which are somewhere here. Too much clouds. Let's just go for that one. But now you can see that the colors have been adjusted. If you don't want the colors to be adjusted, just go to color adjustments and reduce it somewhere over there, and then we can say that we want the sky a little bit more yellow, a little bit darker, and that's it. Just hit output to the new layer and let's just hit OK. So then you get this entire group which is still adjustable, but it gives us that extra little pop in the image. And now this is grouped and will be called cleanup, because that's all we actually did. So when we go back, you can already see that we've done a lot of changes just by doing those 3 different steps, which was healing, liquify and sky replacement. So when we keep on going with this image, the next step will be running, dodging and burning. So what I'm gonna be doing is first create some help layers. Help layers are layers that lets us visualize an image in such a way that our brain doesn't get confused about it. So what we do is we create a solid color. We're gonna fill everything with gray, so that would be 128, 128, 128, which is mid-gray. And then we're gonna change the blend mode into color, and we're gonna create an extra curve for contrast. So when we want to really see the differences, we have to adjust. We can like play around with that curve. I'm gonna hold down shift, click on the one below, I'm gonna group them, and I'm gonna be calling these help. So these are just help layers, visualization layers. They don't do anything crazy. They just help us doing dodging and burning. Now, dodging and burning can be done on different ways. I'm gonna do the quick way now. So that's just creating a new layer, fill it up with 50% gray, change the blend mode to soft light. That's it. Change it again to soft light. And then one of the more important things is when you take a brush, I got my own custom brushes, but when you take a brush, make sure that the settings are hardness set to 0, size, whatever is a little bit bigger than the darkness or brightness you want to adjust. But very important, make sure that the hardness is set to 0 and that the flow is set to 1%. We want to slightly build up the effect, we don't want to go too crazy. And make sure that your foreground and background color is white, black, or the other way around. Now, a quick way is by hitting the D on the keyboard, it resets the colors to the default black and white colors. If you push X, you can change between black and white. So black will make things darker, white will make things brighter. Now, by knowing that, like for instance this, I want to make a little bit darker, and I'm just gonna slightly paint over it. And by doing that, you will see me changing the colors quite a lot. You just want to even out skin tones. You don't want to do too crazy things. You don't want to start creating your own shadows or highlights for that matter. You just want to like clean it up as nicely as you can. After this step, we will be running a frequency separation. So that will be the next step. So there we even smooth out color transitions even more. But for now, we want to do a really nice job with dodging and burning, because the longer we spend in this stage, the better the final result will be. Because it won't be a blurry image, it will be a really nice textured image, which has a lot of detail in it. And I know watching this is the boring part, but some people really want to see a real-time preview, because otherwise they think I'm doing something after the retouching, which is not the case, but just to be clear. So, and then when we enable and disable this, you can tell the difference. There you can see what those little changes actually meant. So when we do enable, disable, you can tell that we evened out already a lot of the skin. Now there's not a lot of skin to do. The more skin you need to retouch, the more you will probably see how much retouching needs to be done. Also, because we've shot this at f2, there's not a lot of detail in the skin, so that's a win-win situation. Now the next step will be running frequency separation. So I've got an action. You can download these actions online. They can be found everywhere. So I'm gonna run my normal action, which is available in my store, but that's something else. So let's just hit Shift F6, which is programmed as an action in my Photoshop. I'm using the frequency separation method, which uses median. So median allows me to define the edges a little bit better in such a way that I can paint closer to the edges than what you normally could with Gaussian blur. So once this is done, we're gonna take a mixer brush. I've made some presets for it, so the mixer brush now, my settings will be 20, 20, 20, and the flow will be 10. And then, yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna be painting on the low layer, which has all the color in it. So if we have a look at this, this is the color information, this is the texture information. So I'm gonna be painting with a brush, and I want to push colors around. So what I'm gonna be doing is pushing colors from one area into another area, but watch out, there's a but. Don't go overboard. Build it up slowly in such a way that it's not like messing up the face. Like I've said before, I want to remove the sun that's creating those weird shadows, so that will be in color and texture. So I'm gonna take the clone stamp, I'm gonna make sure that my hardness is set to 100%, and then I'm gonna be sampling and just painting over by holding down Alt. There we go. And the same goes for here. There we go. And then when we have a look at this, you can see we just smoothened out the color, not the texture, the color. So we smoothened out the color, and yeah, this way you even out some weird transitions. Like for instance, if a model has red in her face, this way is an easy way to just get rid of it. There we go. So that's dodging and burning. Now there's another step in dodging and burning, and that's called contouring. And in contouring you can go a little bit harder, so you're gonna define more three-dimensional. You're gonna define a more three-dimensional aspect in an image. It goes the same way. So a new layer, you just fill it up. So you go to edit, fill, you fill it up with 50% gray. You change the blend mode into soft light, and then you paint with white and black again, but this time I'm not gonna be painting with 1, I'm gonna be painting with 3%. So now you want to really emphasize all the darkness that's in an image and all the brightness that's in an image. Like these highlights, I'm gonna paint over them. This little arch, the highlight on the nose, on the eyeshadow, even on the hair, the collarbones. And remember, a shadow or a highlight can only live when the other one lives next to it. Sounds weird, I know, but when you paint a shadow, normally you should paint a highlight next to it. Like if I enable and disable this one, you can already tell the difference immediately. And it might be that we are doing it overboard a bit now, but we can always lower the opacity of the layer. So I'm gonna paint dark on this part. and right on that part. Now, one thing that might happen is that we have some different color variations in an image, like you can see here. It's not really a big issue, but that's something to keep in mind, that when you're doing this method, you should be painting over it. There we go. And then before, after. You can immediately tell the difference in an image. Now I'm gonna reduce the opacity to around 70-ish. And you can run this again, so you can do it again. So hit a new layer, Shift F5, hit it with 50% gray, change the blend mode to soft light, and then just do the same thing over again. Like if you want areas to be more emphasized, just go over it again, or just take other areas. There you have it. So that's the dodging and burning stage. Let me group those, DB. So far, this is the change we've done. So nothing too crazy. We've just created different highlights. We cleaned up the image, and that's about it. Now, the final step will be coloring. But that's another video I'm gonna be showing you next week, so keep an eye out for that one. So I'm gonna stop the video here. If you got questions so far, let me know below, I'll gladly reply to them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit some like buttons, it will help the channel out a lot. And then I'll see you next week for the follow-up of this retouching part. Ciao ciao.